The rain fell on New York City not as a gentle shower, but as a cold, relentless punishment. Inside his Rolls-Royce Phantom, a mobile vault of silence and heated leather, Alexander Vance watched the city blur past. At 38, Alexander had conquered the world of high-stakes venture capital. He was a man who traded in futures, but the human heart was an illogical, messy variable he had long since factored out of his own equation. The car slowed to a crawl in the gridlock. Alexander's gaze was drawn to a figure huddled in a doorway. A woman, wrapped in a sodden coat, was trying to shield a scruffy dog from the downpour. It wasn't the scene itself that caught his attention, but the look on her face. As she whispered to the dog, her expression was one of fierce, unwavering tenderness. It was a look so out of place, so illogically pure, that it snagged on the cold, analytical part of his mind. A flashy yellow Lamborghini pulled up. A man leaned out, laughing. "Hey, sweetheart, how much for the dog?" "I need a new rug for my penthouse." Alexander felt a flicker of disgust, followed by a cold, sharp anger. He saw the woman flinch, pulling the dog closer, her green eyes flashing with a fire that seemed to momentarily dry the rain. She stared at the man with such profound contempt that his smirk faltered and he rolled up his window. That was the moment the idea planted itself in Alexander's mind. It was born of supreme boredom, a cynical curiosity, and the arrogant belief that he could dissect any human emotion. "Joseph, pull over here," Alexander said. The Rolls-Royce glided to the curb. Alexander stepped out, the rain assaulting his expensive overcoat. He walked to the doorway. The woman looked up, her guard instantly up. The dog let out a low growl. "Easy, Buster," she murmured, her voice husky but clear. Alexander held out a folded stack of $100 bills. "For you." "And the dog." She looked at the money, then back at his face. Her eyes showed a deep, weary suspicion. "Why?" "Because it's raining." "Take it." She shook her head. "I don't want your pity." "Keep it." Alexander was taken aback. Refusal was an anomaly. He looked at her cardboard sign. It was written in a neat, elegant script. "Down on my luck, not out of hope. A story for a sandwich?" "A story for a sandwich." "I have a proposition for you," Alexander said, a faint, cynical smile on his lips. "A wager. I don't have anything to bet." "Oh, but you do." He pointed at the Phantom. "I will bet you this car." She let out a short, sharp laugh. "You're insane." "Piss off. I'm perfectly serious," Alexander said, his voice intense. "The wager is this. I believe that love is a myth, a chemical reaction, a transaction. I wager that I can spend 2 weeks in your world, with you, and I will not develop any romantic feelings for you. If I win, you admit that love is a fairy tale." She stared at him, her eyes wide with disbelief. "And if you lose?" "If I lose, the car is yours. You could sell it, buy a house, never be cold again." The rain continued to fall. Buster whined. She studied him, a deeply flawed, fascinatingly broken specimen. "You want to live my life? You think you can do that for 2 weeks? I do." "Why?" "To prove a point, and because I am bored. My life is predictable. This is not." She was silent for a long time. "What's your name?" "Alexander Vance. I'm Elara." "Fine. You have a deal. 2 weeks. Starting now, but my rules. You give me your wallet, your phone, everything." You walk into this with nothing but the clothes on your back. A thrill went through Alexander. Agreed. He turned to Joseph. Take the car back. Tell my assistant I am unreachable for 2 weeks. Sir, is that advisable? Joseph asked. Just do it. Alexander handed over his wallet, phone, and watch. He felt a strange lightness. Elara stood up. Welcome to the real world, Mr. Vance. Let's see how long you last. Their first stop was the library. For Alexander, it was a familiar landmark. For Elara, it was a sanctuary. She led him to a secluded corner and unpacked a damp notebook. I come here to write. To remember there are worlds beyond the pavement. What do you write? Alexander asked. Stories, she said simply, mostly for myself. Sometimes for Buster. After a few hours, she closed her notebook. Lunchtime. Lunch was at a soup kitchen. The line was long, a somber parade. The air smelled of wet wool and weak coffee. Alexander stood beside her, his expensive coat drawing stares. He felt like an imposter. When they reached the front, a volunteer ladled stew into a bowl for Elara and then looked at Alexander. And for you, sir? The way she said, sir, was laden with questions. Alexander Vance was about to accept charity stew. His pride screamed. He glanced at Elara, who watched him with a challenging glint. This was the first test. Yes, thank you, he managed. The stew was bland. They ate it on the steps outside. Elara shared bread with Buster. Alexander forced the food down. Where do we sleep? Alexander asked, dreading the answer. There's a shelter. Or my spot. It's quieter, but colder. The spot, Alexander said. The afternoon was spent walking. Elara showed him her world. The kind newsstand vendor, the security guard, the other homeless individuals. Alexander listened with detached interest. But as the hours wore on, he began to see the intricate social web she was a part of. It was a world of constant, low-grade anxiety. At dusk, she led him to her spot, a recessed loading dock behind a furniture store. It was sheltered from the wind and view. She had blankets and tarpaulin hidden there. This is home, she said. Alexander looked at the hard, cold concrete. He thought of his penthouse. A wave of crushing despair washed over him. He almost called it off. But he looked at Elara. She was making a nest for Buster, talking to him softly. There was a resilience in her that was formidable. He sat down, the cold seeping through his trousers. The night was long and sleepless. Every sound was amplified. He was cold, hungry, and vulnerable. At one point, Elara stirred. Can't sleep. No, first night is always the worst. Why are you really doing this? The boredom excuse is bullshit. Alexander was silent. I told you. To prove a point. About love, what happened to you? No one broke me. I simply observed. My parents' marriage was a miserable merger. My last relationship ended over a stock portfolio. Love is a failed business model, high risk, no guaranteed return. You've never been in love? Infatuation, perhaps. Lust, but love. No, you're a sad, strange man, she said, her tone filled with pity. You live in a palace, but your soul is in a colder place than this loading dock. Her words struck him. He had no retort. He had come to study her, but she had turned the microscope on him. The days blurred into a new rhythm. Alexander's mind became preoccupied with primal concerns. He learned the art of panhandling. It was humiliating. People looked through him. Ilara had a different approach. She engaged. He watched her talk to a harried mother. She told a joke. The woman laughed and gave her $5. "You see?" Ilara said. "It's about connecting." Even for a second, Alexander was baffled. "That's inefficient. Your time is worth what, exactly, right now?" He had no answer. On the fourth day, Buster got sick. He refused food and began to vomit. Fear seized Ilara. She gathered him in her arms. "He's sick. I need a vet." "We have no money," Alexander stated. "I don't care. I'll beg. I'll steal." "Come on," he said, his voice firm. He led the way to a clinic. The receptionist was hardened. "Payment is required up front." Ilara was desperate. "Please, I can work it off." "I'm sorry, clinic policy." Alexander stepped forward. His bearing made the woman pause. "Estimated cost. Exam is $85. Treatment could be several hundred." Alexander walked out. Ilara watched him go, despair crashing over her. He was returning to his world. 10 minutes later he returned. He had pawned his signet ring. He placed $250 on the counter. "Examine the dog, now." The vet took Buster to the back. The wait was agonizing. Finally, the vet emerged. "He'll be okay. He ingested something toxic. We've pumped his stomach. He needs rest." Ilara burst into tears of relief. She threw her arms around Alexander. "Thank you," she sobbed. The feel of her in his arms was a sensory overload. He stood stiffly, then tentatively patted her back. A warmth spread through his chest. That night, with a recovering Buster between them, something shifted. "You didn't have to do that," Ilara said. The ring looked expensive. "It was just a thing," Alexander said, and he meant it. "Tell me about your world. What did you love as a boy?" No one had asked him that in decades. He told her about building forts, his love for astronomy, his kind nanny. Ilara listened, truly listened. She shared her story. She had been a graduate student in art history. She had a life, a fiancé. Her parents died suddenly. The grief was crippling. Her fiancé left. She lost her footing. She dropped out, lost her job, was evicted. "I didn't fall. I retreated. The world became too loud. Out here, it's simple. Survive. Protect Buster. Find a moment of beauty." It's a strange freedom. Alexander lay in the dark, his mind reeling. Her resilience was about redefining what a life could be. He watched her more. The way her eyes crinkled when she joked, her gentle care for Buster, her fierce intelligence. He started to see the woman she was. A week in, they shared an apple in the park. "You know," Ilara said, "for a man who doesn't believe in love, you have a protective streak." Alexander frowned. It was logical. A sick dog is a liability. "Liar," she said softly. "You did it for me." He looked away. She was right. He was starting to care. One afternoon, they encountered old Ben, having a bad day. People avoided him. Ilara walked right up. "Ben," she said calmly, "it's Ilara. You're safe. Tell me about the sonnet you were reciting." She engaged the broken part of his mind. The wildness in his eyes receded. Alexander watched, mesmerized. This was a different kind of power. The power to heal, to connect. On the 10th night, it rained again. They huddled together under the tarpaulin, shivering. "Here," Ilara said, shifting closer. She wrapped her arms around him, sharing her body heat. Shared misery is less miserable. He was frozen. The proximity was electrifying. He felt her slender strength, her breathing. "Ilara," he whispered. She murmured. "Just be warm." In that moment, Alexander felt something break open inside him. It was a dam of ice, and what flowed out was a torrent of feeling. He looked down at her, trusting him enough to sleep in his arms, and he knew. He had lost the wager, spectacularly. He was in love with her. The realization was terrifying. It made him vulnerable. The bet was a trap. If he admitted he lost, he would give her the car, and she would leave. If he lied, he would betray his feeling and lose her anyway. The final days were agony. He watched her with new eyes, every gesture layered with significance. The morning of the 14th day dawned clear. They sat on their bench, sharing coffee. "Well," Ilara said, "today's the day. What's the verdict?" "Am I a chemical reaction?" Alexander couldn't look at her. He thought of the past 2 weeks, the misery and the magnificence. He had never felt more alive. He had a choice. Return to his sterile comfort or tell the truth and likely lose her. He took a deep breath. "Ilara," he began, his voice thick. "I was wrong." "Wrong about what?" "About everything. About love. About what matters." He paused. "The wager, I lost. I lost completely. These past 2 weeks, they have been the most miserable and the most magnificent of my life. And that is because of you." He reached out and took her hand. Her fingers were cold and rough. "I didn't just fall in love with you. I tumbled into it, irrevocably. You have shown me a strength and a kindness I didn't know existed. The car is yours. It's parked on 54th Street. Joseph has the keys. It's yours." He waited for her reaction. Ilara looked at their joined hands, then at his face. A tear traced a path through the grime on her cheek. But she wasn't smiling. "Oh, Alexander," she whispered. "You foolish, wonderful man." She pulled her hand away. "I can't take the car." His heart plummeted. "Why? You won." "It's yours. I didn't win the bet. The bet was never about the car for me. It was about you. I saw a man trapped in his own fortress, starving inside. I took your wager to free you, not to win a car." She stood up. "You think you fell in love with me in 2 weeks. What you fell in love with is the humanity you found in yourself when you were stripped of everything. You fell in love with the man you are capable of being." She took a step back. "I can't be the prize you win. I won't be your project. If you love me, then love me as an equal. Until you can figure out how to merge the man you were with the man you've become. The car means nothing." She turned to leave. "Ilara, wait," he called out, desperate. "Where will you go?" She looked back, her smile sad but genuine. "I'll be right here, Alexander, in my world. If you find your way back, the real you, you know where to find me." She walked away, Buster at her heels, leaving Alexander alone on the bench. He had lost his wager, his cynicism, and the woman he loved. But she had given him a choice. He could go back to his hollow life or forge a new one. A life where he was defined not by wealth, but by character. A life where he could hopefully one day be worthy of her. The bet was over. But for Alexander Vance, everything was just beginning.